I remember that morning like it was etched into the very bark of the trees surrounding our little slice of heaven. The kind of dawn where the mist clings to the pines, whispering secrets through the leaves, and the world feels both vast and intimately yours. You know, the way you'd imagine in those epic nature documentaries where the narrator's voice drops low, building that sense of impending drama right from the start. But this wasn't some scripted tale. This was my life, our life, Alex, and Sarah's, tucked away in our cozy Whispering Pines cabin on those precious 5 acres we call the Evergreen Haven, a sanctuary we'd carved out after fleeing the relentless grind of city lights and honking horns, trading skyscrapers for starlit skies, where every rustle in the underbrush felt like a gentle reminder that we'd finally found peace. We'd build it all ourselves, or at least as much as 2 dreamers with calloused hands could manage. The long driveway, winding through the woods like a vein to our heart, secured by a sturdy gate we'd welded from scrap metal, complete with a keypad lock that beeped reassuringly each time we punched in the code. And of course, our faithful guardian buddy, the old German shepherd mix who'd bark at squirrels as if they were invading armies, his tail wagging furiously when he saw us, but turning into a low growl for strangers, making the whole place feel impenetrable, sacred almost, like a fortress against the chaos we'd left behind. But that illusion shattered one crisp autumn morning, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the frost-kissed ground. When I heard the distant rumble of engines, not the familiar hum of wildlife waking up, but something mechanical, aggressive, slicing through the tranquility like a knife through butter, and as I stepped out onto the porch, coffee mug steaming in my hand, my heart skipping a beat in that way it does when instinct screams trouble. There they were, a crew from the Silver Brook Association, tools in hand, chainsaws revving like angry beasts, poised to tear into the ancient oaks that bordered our land, claiming they needed to clear a path, rip down our fence, all in the name of some vague community benefit, as if our private paradise was suddenly fair game for their ambitions. And leading the charge was Victoria Kane, sharp-suited and sharper-tongued, her eyes cold as the morning dew, striding up like she owned the place, declaring with that faux authoritative tone that this was for the greater good. The Silverbrook preserved demanding access, emergency routes, or whatever buzzword they were hiding behind, but I could see the gleam in her eye, the kind that said this was personal, calculated. And as Sarah joined me, her hand slipping into mine, squeezing tight with that mix of fear and defiance we'd honed over years of building our life together, we stood our ground, voices rising in unison, telling them no, this is our land, our home. Get off or face the consequences, the air thick with tension, the chainsaws idling like a threat. And in that moment, I felt the first crack in our idyllic world, a hook that pulled us into a nightmare we never saw coming, wondering if our sanctuary was truly ours, or just the illusion waiting to be dismantled. The confrontation lingered in the air long after they backed off that day, grumbling and retreating, but it planted a seed of unease in my chest, a nagging doubt that twisted my guts, because deep down, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. And as we watched their trucks disappear down the road, Sarah turned to me, her eyes wide with that vulnerable spark I fell in love with, whispering that we had a fight, for us, for Buddy, for every dream we'd poured into this dirt. And I nodded, pulling her close, but inside, my mind raced, replaying the scene like a movie reel, the injustice bubbling up. How dare they encroach on what we'd earned through sweat and sacrifice, turning our haven into a battleground. And little did I know, this was just the inciting spark, the beginning of a war that would test our resolve, our love, and our very sense of justice. That initial shockwave rippled through our days, turning simple routines into vigilant watches, and it wasn't long before the first official blow landed, a certified letter slipping through the mailbox like a venomous snake from the Silverbrook HOA, demanding we open our gate for temporary access, citing some fabricated emergency planning nonsense, threatening legal action if we didn't comply within 2 weeks. The words on the page blurring as rage built inside me. How could they, these faceless bureaucrats, dictate terms on our private property, as if our boundaries were mere suggestions, and I paced the cabin floor, Sarah by my side, her voice soft but firm, reminding me of the love that bound us to this place, the family we'd created here, away from the world's noise. But the unfairness gnawed at me, a bykitch unfolding in slow motion, where the powerful preyed on the peaceful. Determined not to fold, I drove down to the County Records Bureau, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like accusatory whispers, digging through dusty files, my fingers trembling slightly as I uncovered patterns, how the Silverbrook HOA had pulled similar stunts on others, bluffing their way through disputes, often backing down when challenged, but sometimes crushing the little guys under legal fees and intimidation. And it fueled a fire in me, a mix of anger and dark humor, thinking how these so-called community leaders were more like playground bullies in suits. And armed with that knowledge, I drafted a response, notarized and ironclad, refusing their demands, warning of trespassing charges, sending it off with a satisfying thud into the mailbox. But even as I did, a chill ran down my spine, knowing this was escalation, the conflict sharpening, our peaceful life now laced with the tension of an impending storm. And sure enough, the retaliation came under the cover of night, shadowy figures snipping the wires to our gate's power, leaving it dangling like a wounded sentinel. And I laughed bitterly to myself as I discovered it at dawn, Buddy barking madly, because who sneaks around like cartoon villains in the dark? But the humor faded fast, replaced by a steely resolve, and we upgraded everything, installing cameras that blinked like watchful eyes, floodlights that turned night into day, trail cams hidden in the brush, even a drone for aerial patrols, turning our home into a fortress. But beneath it all, the emotional toll mounted, Sarah's worried glances, my sleepless nights, the injustice of it all weighing heavy, wondering if our love for this land would be enough to withstand the gathering darkness. The cameras paid off sooner than expected, capturing grainy footage of a red pickup truck slipping onto our property at 2 a.m., its occupants erecting a sign proclaiming a scenic trail, courtesy of Silverbrook HOA, as if they could just claim our land with a piece of wooden nails. And my blood boiled, calling the sheriff's office, my voice steady but laced with fury, only for Deputy Ellis to show up, shrugging it off as a civil matter. No real action, just words that felt like a slap, amplifying the bykitch, how the system seemed rigged against us, the little family fighting for their corner of the world. That's when we brought in Liam Hartley, our lawyer, a no-nonsense guy with a twinkle in his eye that suggested he relished taking down Goliaths. And together we started building our case, compiling photos, videos, drone shots that painted a clear picture of intrusion, the tension building like a thriller's plot, each piece of evidence a step closer to justice, but also a reminder of the love we were protecting. Sarah and I sharing quiet moments by the fire, her head on my shoulder, vowing we'd never let them take this from us. Then came the twist that ratcheted everything up, the Silverbrook HOA filing a fraudulent easement claim, papers forged with the signature of Jonathan Hargrove, the previous owner who'd passed away 5 years prior. The notary stamp expired since 2011, yet dated recently, and the handwriting matching a former board members from the county office, screaming felony forgery. And as Liam and I pored over it, a dark chuckle escaped me at the sheer audacity, like they thought we were idiots who'd roll over, but it deepened the sense of betrayal, the unfairness, how these people twisted laws to steal what wasn't theirs. Digging deeper, we uncovered Victoria Kane's shell company, Summit Holdings LLC, snapping up surrounding parcels to box us in, a calculated siege that made my stomach churn. The bykitch of it all, our family haven under assault from greed disguised as community spirit, and I felt the emotions swelling, and Ed inside, ready to burst as the conflict hurtled toward its peak. The escalation hit like a thunderclap. One stormy afternoon when the Silverbrook HOA crew returned, grinders whining as they attacked our steel gate despite the court injunction we'd secured, Victoria Kane orchestrating from the sidelines, her face twisted in smug determination. But our drone hummed overhead, capturing every spark, every cut, every defiant word, and I stood there with Sarah, hearts pounding, the tension electric, yelling for them to stop. This was illegal. our home, our rights. But they pressed on, the metal screaming in protest, mirroring the rage building in my chest, the injustice so palpable it hurt. How could they disregard the law so blatantly, trampling on our dreams? But fate, or perhaps justice peeking through, brought Deputy Ellis roaring up in his cruiser, lights flashing like a cinematic rescue, ordering them a halt. Reading Victoria her Miranda rights right there in the mud, her expression shifting from arrogance to shock, and I couldn't help a wry smile, thinking how the tables turn. The bully caught red-handed, but beneath the humor, the emotional depth hit hard. Relief mixing with a lingering fear for our family, our love that had been tested so fiercely. We rushed the new evidence to the judge, who signed a permanent injunction, forwarding the forgery to the district attorney. And as we uncovered more, Victoria funneling HOA funds to her relative Summit Holdings LLC, the web of corruption unraveling, the buy kitsch amplifying, how one person's greed could poison a whole community, threatening homes like ours, built on love and hard work. The counterattack came swift and satisfying, though laced with the stress of battle, as the Silverbrook HOA launched a smear campaign, flooding online forums and emails with lies, painting me as a selfish recluse, the gatekeeper ghoul, hoarding land from the public. And for a moment, it stung, neighbors turning cold, vandalism striking, rocks through windows, flyers littered like trash, graffiti scrawled in hasty anger. And Sarah and I huddled together, her tears soaking my shirt, the unfairness crushing, but it fueled our fire, the love for our family pushing us forward, refusing to let them break us. With Liam's help, we struck back, leaking internal emails where Victoria admitted to fabricating necessities to force sales, a forensic audit exposing tens of thousands in misappropriated funds, and the humor in it was grim, like watching a house of cards collapse, board members jumping ship, two resigning in haste, one even emailing an apology, confessing Victoria's manipulations, and I felt the shift, the tension peaking, our righteous revenge taking shape, not out of spite, but justice for the buy kitsch inflicted on us and others. The climax built to a fever pitch in the civil courtroom, where I sued for property damage, emotional distress, fraud, fund misuse, targeting the board personally, especially Victoria, the air thick with anticipation, witnesses recounting the trespasses, the forgeries laid bare like open wounds, and outside, the criminal probe loomed, diving into fraud, conspiracy, vandalism, the net tightening around her. Then, in a scene straight out of a drama, Victoria was arrested mid-HOA meeting, cuffs clicking as cameras rolled, the video going viral, a cathartic burst after the end, emotions, and I watched from afar, a mix of triumph and sorrow for the human folly, but mostly relief for our family, the love that had endured. The criminal trial was the pinnacle, evidence mounting like a tidal wave, forged documents, drone footage of the gate assault, incriminating emails, money trails, and the jury, after tense deliberations, convicted on all counts. Victoria remanded, bail denied, her empire crumbling, the tension releasing in a flood of justice, but not without the inner reflection on the cost, the buy kitsch of greed destroying lives. In the aftermath, the fallout was swift and poetic, Victoria facing years behind bars, the Silverbrook HOA dissolving in chaos, board members fleeing like rats from a sinking ship, a full audit exposing the rot, homeowners clamoring for refunds, their eyes open to the injustice. And, as the dust settled, Sarah and I rebuilt stronger, forging a new gate from reinforced plate steel, adding seismic sensors that hummed softly, license plate readers scanning every approach, turning our evergreen haven into an unbreachable testament to resilience. And we even erected a granite monument at the entrance, etched with "This land stands eternal," and "Private sanctuary," under constant watch, a bold declaration against future threats, the humor in it light, like a "Beware of Dog" sign on steroids, but deeply satisfying. Slowly, the Silverbrook neighbors thawed, apologies trickling in with homemade pies and offers to help repair the scars, relationships mending over shared fences, the community healing from the division sown by one woman's ambition. And as winter blanketed the woods in snow, erasing the old wounds under a pristine white shroud, Sarah and I sat by the hearth, raising glasses of whiskey, toasting to our haven and to holding it forever. The peace returning, deeper now, forged in fire, our love. Unbreakable. The by-kitsch transformed into triumph. A cinematic closure where the heroes reclaim their world. The family bond shining brighter against the faded shadows of conflict. We added a brass plaque to the gate, inscribed with liberty earned through vigilance, a final nod to the battle won. And as the flakes fell outside, muffling the world, I felt the emotions settle, the ed rage giving way to quiet contentment, knowing we defended what mattered most, our home, our hearts, ending the saga on a note of serene victory. But as I reflect on it all, the twists and turns that nearly tore us apart, I can't help but wonder, was our fight a clear-cut case of right versus wrong? Or does the line blur when community needs clash with personal rights, prompting questions of justice and ethics that linger long after the credits roll? What do you think? In a world of competing interests, is standing your ground always the moral high road? Or could compromise sometimes serve the greater good?